All right, we're ready to dive into part 2 of this vlog. You're seeing a quick recap from last week's art vlog on the screen right now. And in a minute, you'll see which reference I chose to paint. Yes, it looks chaotic, but just wait till you see where we end up with this. I found this process to be a really useful step on this journey I've been traveling lately, which has as its hopeful end goal my learning to create loose portraits. As for our paints, I'm going to use Daniel Smith. Used many of these paints to lay down the foundation. This is my first professional watercolor palette. If you want to see me set it up, as this was one of my very first videos on this channel, and I love this video. I'll put it in the eye if you want to watch it. But we're going to use these paints and perhaps probably just this one here, which is, these are from Flow and Forge, an independent watercolor maker, small business on Etsy, and I've had them for, at least a year. Not all of these are Flow and Forge. This one isn't, and this one isn't, but they include in this tiny little kit that is beat up to heck, a whole bunch of these extra little tins. It's a travel kit. And this is a magnet here. I used acrylic. I wanted to see if I could put acrylic. I think I'm going to do that. Put acrylic here so I can use this as a mixing space. Anyway, I used some of these when I set up the underpainting and the background. So I will probably use some of them again for the face. We'll see. We'll see where the piece takes us. And so we're all set and ready to go. So let's rock and roll. Just relax, watch me paint. I will be interjecting from time to time. And I will see you after, and we can kind of talk about a few things. Stick around.
Floating, weightless, under sea, diving, conscious, like a dream. You and me. Suddenly I only want to feel you breathe. Little by little we're drowning down. Little by little the tide is rising.
Shadows with a hard edge are usually reserved for a cast shadow. This bit of my shirt is casting a shadow here because the light is coming from this direction here. So my shirt fold is casting a shadow here on this piece of cloth. That's a hard edge shadow. Now, if you look at the curve of my very dry-skinned hand, you can see the light's still coming from here, and it's brightest here. The light fades and becomes darker and darker and darker until it reaches the turn of the form where it's no longer visible. So this here is the darkest part of the shadow, but it's a gradual progression from brightest, from the light hitting it here, and then curving away to the darkest point. And that will always be best illustrated by using a soft edge because it's a soft transition from lightest to darkest. Now you can, as an artist, choose to do things differently or play with the rules however you like. You're not beholden to these rules. I only mention it because if you're seeking to create very realistic shadows, that's kind of how they work. So by defining the area around the nose, I'm allowing that nose to come forward in space. And even though I'm not using a very dark shadow color, just the fact that the nose is a light color, it's almost a pure white because there isn't a lot of this underpainting or background material on it, it still brings it forward in space. Now this kind of shadow here on her face sort of like bleeds out into everything else here. So I'm going to just add a bit more color to it. And then I'm going to blend it all out down into almost like her mouth area. So I'm not taking all the color off my brush, and I'm just adding water to this area. Just kind of squishing it from my brush with a little bit of pigment in it onto the paper. And we know that the shadow, if we look at the reference, starts to get quite dark here. Of course, because that's where the form is turning. So I don't need to be too concerned with exactly how dark it gets there. And see how all these other colors that were already laid down just bleed so perfectly into the face. Lay this down as sort of the first layer of this area of shadow here by the eye. I will darken it with the second layer, but I like the pinks. And I do like that it's sort of a dramatic and aggressive, not fully blended out situation right here. I'm going to use this time to kind of go in and add a little bit of color here to the center because that's the most forward portion that we're going to see. It's where the highlights are, like these little white spaces, and it's also where the lip color should be the brightest, the most true to local color of the lips. And the local color is the skin, the lips' actual color as seen by the eye in the most neutral form, like not in shadow and not in highlight, just basic local color of the skin. Guys, I apologize if I'm doing a poor job of explaining this. I'm not no art teacher, y'all. I'm just a YouTube trained artiste. So here I'm going to go back and bring in some more of the caput mortuum for this lower part of the lip because that's in shadow. Still has pink, but it's in shadow. And some of that shadow is going to bleed up into the local color, and that's perfectly fine because that's how it really works in real life anyway. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And there is a bit of shadow under the lip, and we can do that as one connected shadow, leaving this little light part here. So we're gonna do this like kind of going down into the face here. And that can go right down into kind of her neck area. So there is a bit more color here. I'm going in with too much water. So we've got to be careful. Then there's just a hard edge there. Nice, nice guys. How does that look? Are we happy with that? I think we are. I think we are. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. You can see all the salt is like mixed in. There was a fair bit left behind. I think this one I had more salt left behind than in almost any of the ones I did. I'm not sure why. I didn't add more than I usually do. I think, I don't know, maybe just because I left it overnight until I could film it. All right, so we want to go in here and add a bit more shadow to this area as well. And that goes deep into like the hair, and we'll be adding in the hair later, so. There we go. Doing pretty good so far. All right, so I let things dry, and now I am back to, I want to add to the eyes again. So as you can see, there's this very dark color, and then there is our very minimal highlight. So I'm going to add a small amount of, that's not a small amount, of my neutral tint to the colors we initially used for the eyes. And that is going to give us our dark, dark color, our darkest dark, to that pinky sort of caput mortem. Hopefully that'll be dark enough. I think it will. Of course, I'm using a lot of water with it. It's not, all right. So the shape is sort of like, well, I'll show you as I paint it. And these are our eyelashes, actually. You'll see a bit of the pupil there. Really dark, with our only exception being just a little bit of highlight. Come in here. Okay, tell me if this happens to you. Do you have the propensity toward sometimes seeing some bit of what you've laid down and suddenly having this sense of concern that, oh, that looks wrong, or I don't like that, and then immediately going in and scrubbing off the area or changing that area, and then regretting it, because if you would have just left it, allowed it to dry, and then evaluated it afterward, you might have found that the error isn't as great as you thought. And the best way, I think, to change this be to take this brush and just very gently kind of go back and forth, lifting that area. Yeah, already that's a little bit better. The eyes are the most important part of your portrait. And if you get the eyes right, everything else is pretty livable, in my opinion. So we do want to be careful with our eye shape. And after you do go in and fix the shape of something, lifting or whatnot, you want to let it fully dry. Now, I don't know if you use a hair dryer or just go and get, a cup of coffee or something in between layers, and that's much better already. Yeah, I like that a lot more. Ooh, that was a lot more. A lot more. Now I'm taking almost all the water out of my brush, and I'm going to go in and lift a bit more of the highlight there, just very gently. Ah, that's much better. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to move on to another spot in the painting. And this is all kind of color. And we're going to let that go all the way out to that spot where I had kind of marked the edge of the shadow, but I'm going to blend it and blend it. Now I'm not scrubbing at this, I'm just gently adding some water, kind of like very gently moving the pigment around on the page. And here, this is kind of like harsh, and it shouldn't be, again, because it's just a turn of the form. It's not a cast shadow from another object or another part of the face. So I'm gonna just kind of smooth that out and add some more water to it. Guys, in watercolor, water is your friend. Now, yes, it can interfere with the freshness of the wash if you're going in and scrubbing and messing with it, but there is a difference between doing that and just very gently adding in water, manipulating the pigment, and you want to be doing so only when it's very wet, or after it has completely dried, right? So these are things to think about. We need to add a bit more pigment here. There is one highlight spot and it's right like there. But everything else here is really has color to it. So I'm going to kind of leave that way. I'm happy with it so far. What do you guys think? How do you like it? I am very, very happy with it so far.
This big black cloud is coming